Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wine Eat podcast. Thank you for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, share a comment in the comment section. So, we're going to be talking about the news that broke a few days ago about the president of Venezuela. And it looks like the U.S. government has alleged and they've put a reward of $50 million for information leading to his arrest and also the conviction of the current president of Venezuela because they believe his business is smuggling drugs into the U.S. and all sort of other transnational crimes. He's been accused of being one of the largest drug traffickers. He's been accused of association with different gangs out of Venezuela and out of Mexico. And being a president of a country, you would have thought his people voted for him because they believe in his agenda, they believe in the things that he's saying to the people. He wants the life of the people better. So it's unfortunate that the US government has these allegations against him. And they've seized properties worth over $700 million that's been linked to the president of Venezuela, including multiple private jets, vehicles, and other drugs that are linked to him. We just want to have a conversation about it. So, what's your opinion on these allegations against the president of Venezuela?
I mean, this is another case of America trying to meddle in another country's internal affair. We know that America sees themselves as a champion of democracy. They want to sell it to everybody. But I think they fail to understand that, what is good for America might not necessarily be good for another country. I'm trying to say that, like, the system of government that is suitable for America might not just be the right kind of system for another country, just like they've sold their democracy to Africa, and Africa countries leaders are just busy bastardizing and, abusing the democracy and then just running with it. The same way we can make the case for Nicolás Maduro, they've been trying to force him out of power. Although, for me personally, I don't really like all these sit tight leaders. I think Nicolás Maduro came into office in 2010, and since he has refused to leave, I think the biggest issue with him and America is, I think it has to do with the election that was conducted in 2018. So the election, they said it was fraudulent. So the US and other countries refused to recognize Maduro as the duly elected president after the 2018 election. And instead, America, they went ahead and recognized his opponent as the interim president. So, and ever since that time, they've been trying to oust him. Even in 2020, there was a bounty on his head, about $50 million bounty. And I think in 2020, Joe Biden was the president. So I don't think there's anything special or there's anything special that Trump is doing with regards to Nicolas Maduro. I think whether Republican, whether Democrat that is in power, all of them are after Nicolas Maduro. And also, the person that is really championing this cause is Marco Rubio. So for me, I don't really like what the United States is doing. I think we should just focus on ourselves. Whatever that they are doing in Venezuela doesn't affect America in any way, shape, or form. And I think we are just not just minding our business. We are just foreclosing and then getting ourselves involved with things that do not necessarily concern us.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that it looks like the U.S. government has been meddling in other countries' affairs, but I want you to look at it in another way. If a country or if a leader of a country is terrorizing your people and bringing in drugs or allegedly bringing in drugs and crimes into your country, you want to make sure you stop the crime at the source. And I think that is what the US government is trying to do. They're trying to stop the inflow of drug trafficking, inflow of illegal crimes out of Venezuela. They want to stop it at the source. There's been a lot of issues with the border, and we've talked about immigration multiple times. So they believe if Venezuela is being ran properly, maybe there will be less influx of Venezuelan immigrant into the U.S. That may be wrong. That may be right. We don't know. And it looks like when the Attorney General announced that is a $50 million bounty on his head, a lot of people on X were making fun of the information, saying that yeah, if you want to go get him, go get him in Venezuela is in Venezuela. So it's crazy. Looks like X, as we know, it's very divisive. So there's a lot of wrong information. Uh, there's a lot of crazy information going on X, and a lot of people think maybe the U.S. government is trying to, cover up, use that information to cover up the Epstein file issue that's been ongoing in the U.S. So maybe that's another other reason that the administration is pushing for it at this time. We know there's still issues in Gaza, but it looks like they're trying to remove the Venezuelan president from office. And again, it looks like the US government is meddling in another country's politics. But if you want to look at it, we just say the US government is trying to protect their interests by making sure there are no inflow of drugs, inflow of crimes into their country stemming out of Venezuela. So maybe the US government is trying to protect its interests. What do you think?
In our country or back home, they will say, if you want to kill a dog, you just give the dog a bad name. That's exactly how you hang the dog. Just give the dog a bad name. I think on the surface, what the administration or the US government is telling people is that Venezuela, drugs, there is a whole lot of drugs activities happening in Venezuela. And due to that, they're endangering Americans, and then immigration, people moving in from Venezuela into America. But I think underneath that whole narrative is the issue of, trying to remove Nicolás Maduro. They want to remove him. In fact, I can't remember the year exactly. There was an attempt on that man's life. I can't remember the year exactly, but I think if I look it up, I can find it. But there was an attempt on his life that failed. I'm not saying it was Americans that did that, but what I'm trying to say is that, whatever the media is reporting or the administration is saying, that is the reason why they are going after him. I don't think that is true. There is something else behind it that most people are aware of, but that is not just what the White House is giving as a reason for going after him. I think the primary reason is just to remove him and put somebody that will do the bidding of the Americans. Don't forget that Venezuela is a very rich oil country, oil producing countries. Maybe, just maybe, Nicolas Maduro is stopping the US from having access to their oil. Maybe that is why they have been at loggerhead. And if you look around the world, anywhere you see a sit tight president or a sit tight leader that is doing the biddings of the Americans and then the Europeans, they don't really care. Look at Mussolini, look at Equatorial Guinea that has been there for 45 years. They have abundance of oil. Nobody is disturbing that man. And his son is his vice president. Nobody is disturbing that man. Nobody is raising dust. But Nicolas Maduro, I'm not supporting him for being in power for so long. He's been in power since 2013. 2013 to date is probably maybe 13 years. The president of Equatorial Guinea has been there for 45 years. Nobody's raising dust. Nobody's saying anything. So it shows you the double standards of, these Western countries. And, whatever they're selling to people, they're selling to Americans. That is the reason why they're going after him. I think it will stick depending on the news media that you get your news from. If you watch Fox News, you more than likely agree with them. But if you watch other platforms and maybe CNN, MSNBC, and whatever, you may not necessarily believe, the reason why they're giving out. But overall, my advice would be that I think US should just stop meddling in other countries' affairs. I think by so doing, they just destabilizing these countries. And when they destabilize this country, then they will be complaining about immigration, immigrants coming into the country. Because after you're done destroying another country, what else do you expect? Look at what they did in West Africa with Gaddafi. And today they're still feeling the impact of what they did there. So I don't know if they prefer to destabilize countries and then bother about immigration, about people moving, or they just leave these countries alone and do what they think is good for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. But we all know if the US government wants to do anything, they'll let people know it's a national security issue and they have to take care of it. I believe that's how Gaddafi was taken care of in Libya. And yeah, it's crazy how the governments of the US can make decisions for a lot of countries out there without hearing their side. I'm sure, there are people in Venezuela that will like how the president is leading the country. I'm sure there will be some sect of the country that would not agree with the way the president is leading their country. So if the people of Venezuela want some change, yeah, maybe they'll stand up and demand change, and their president will listen to them and make changes. Having U.S. government do it for them, it doesn't really look good. The optics doesn't look good at all. And if we link it back to the issue of Israel and Gaza, every other country out there, they're against Israel, but the US is behind Israel. So the other countries are not able to hold the president of Israel accountable. They're not able to get him in the international court to be able to tell him to stop. But it looks like whoever the US support, they're going to stick with the person until the person achieves his or her goal. So I guess it's part of politics. And unfortunately, there will be casualties on both sides. And hopefully, the Americans need to hold their leaders accountable and make sure that they're doing the right thing and reducing how they meddle in other countries' systems. And one of the things that Trump campaigned on in the first time and also in his second term in office, he's campaigning against funding walls outside the country. But it looks like he's interested in playing the game as well.
Yeah, and I think not long ago you made mention that this could be a distraction for the Epstein files, according to people on X. Yeah, I'm tempted to believe that. Recently, the administration has been throwing everything up in the air, ranging from they want to appoint a special counsel to look into Obama's dealing during his presidency to charging the New York Attorney General planning to drag her into the courtroom plus every other thing that they've been going around with. They are just doing everything but release the Epstein file. For me, is of no use to me. I don't think it would do anything for me. But just for transparency's sake and accountability's sake, I think they should release it for the people to see what is going on. But instead, they are just opening one case or the other. Who knows now, tomorrow they may decide to open, appoint a special counsel to look into Joe Biden's White House. I think I'm tempted to believe that this is just a distraction, just to make people look away from the Epstein file and see if it goes away like that.
Yeah, I mean, even if they successfully go to Venezuela and arrest the president, are they going to bring him into the country? Will the citizens of Venezuela not stand up against the government of the U.S.? I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know how it's gonna work. If they're able to arrest him, are they gonna bring him into the U.S. or are they gonna make him go to jail in this country? Or I don't know what the whole process is, but it'll be interesting to see how they approach that issue. Is a sitting president, and I would think a sitting president would have immunity, and his people will try to protect him. So it's going to be a difficult task for the U.S. government to, fly into Venezuela and try to, you know, take him out of the country.
Yeah, you and I know that whatever the US want, they get. Whatever they put their minds on, they will get. Bringing him into the country, is just to extradite him, bring him here and prosecute him here, take him through the court system, and then send him to. He would essentially do his jail time here. We saw what they did with El Chapo from Mexico, and they extradited El Chapo to this country, and then he went through the court system. He was found guilty, and today he's serving his term. So I don't think that is going to be difficult for US. You did be surprised they already planned everything. They already simulate every possible scenario and already have a line of action to take. As soon as they lay their hands up on him, yeah, the process will run very fast. But what I don't like is the idea of them going into Venezuela. Although I don't see them going into Venezuela, if they were to do that, they wouldn't have been giving a $50 million bounty, putting $50 million bounty on him. So, and I don't see them, walking into Venezuela. And like you said, we'll see how it goes. But if it has to do with it going to jail and being jailed and stuff like that, it's not difficult for US to do, man. They can just trump up charges, just go to the federal court or to the Supreme Court and tell them that he's been flooding the country with, fentanyl and drugs and stuff like that. And then the judges will just, before you know it, they will side with them and then just throw him into jail.
El Chapo wasn't a president; he was just an ordinary citizen. But Maduro is a current president. You would think there would be some kind of immunity for him, especially when he travels to another country. Because if you think about it, other countries that have embassies inside the US, those embassy employees, they're representative of those countries. When they're inside the US, they have some unique privileges that most people don't have. So basically, you can't prosecute them. If they commit crime, the government will have to take it up with the government of their country, and their country will have to pull them in and see what's going on, and either decide to investigate the case and charge them appropriately or just take them back to their countries. As a sitting president, that might be a little difficult because, like I said, Chapo was a regular citizen in Mexico. But, talking about a president, a sitting president, the way they're going to handle it will be a little different. So I don't think it'll be the same process that the El Chapo case went through. Thank you all for joining us. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you subscribe, like, share. Join us in the comment section. Let us know or let us hear your opinion on our conversations about the bounty of $50 million that the US government has put on the president of Venezuela. And if you think it's okay, if you think it's not okay, let us know in the comment section and we'll like to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you on the other side.